We turn now on this day before Thanksgiving to the ongoing debate over the TSA's enhanced screening. Millions of Americans are taking to the skies today, traveling to their Thanksgiving destinations, and this is often the busiest air travel day of the year. So today, people opposed to the new body imaging machines on the security line have declared National Opt-Out Day, urging passengers to refuse a body scan, which then means getting a thorough and somewhat intimate pat-down instead. The idea to slow down the system in protest. The problem is, so far, not too many people seem to be participating. So what's the fuss about? We have with us today George Donnelly with the group We Won't Fly. He's with us by Skype. They've been organizing events around the country today, and we want to ask him, what does We Don't Fly oppose about the backscatter scanners?
We're opposed for a number of reasons, but most importantly because they don't make us any safer. But while we're forced to trade large amounts of privacy and basic human dignity for it.
And you say they don't make us any safer. The TSA, of course, says that this will help them find things like the explosives that were hidden in Abdul Muttalib's underwear last Christmas Day and that sort of thing.
The fact is that these scanners do not detect the kind of explosive used by the underwear bomber. A leading Israeli airport security expert has said he can get enough explosives through one of these to take down a 747. And finally, the risk of dying from the radiation of the scanners is equal to the risk of dying in a terrorist attack. This doesn't make us any safer. It might even make us less safe because it lulls passengers into a false sense of security, and they're the ones who stop the shoe and underwear bombers.
But do you really think there are health issues associated with this backscatter radiation? I mean, so far everybody else seems to think that it is minimal.
I'm no scientist, but the University of California scientists who sent a letter of concern to the White House earlier this year, they are highly esteemed, and they have expressed concern because, frankly, not enough testing has been done. The TSA really can't claim that it's safe, and they have made a mistake in averaging the radiation dose over the whole body mass. The radiation from these machines disproportionately affects the skin and the tissue under the skin.
So your website also says that this technology is now available on mobile phones. That doesn't seem like it's technically possible. What are you talking about there?
Mobile, we've said mobile vans.
Oh, mobile
there have
phones.
been reports that there are vans sold by a company in Massachusetts that use this technology. They can ride up to another car and scan it in case it's carrying something illicit.
Have we seen one of these? I mean, do we know? Have we seen one of these? Do we know for sure that they exist?
Yes, it's confirmed. In fact, the United States government is one of the customers of this company.
Okay, that sounds like a good issue for another broadcast. But let's go back to the airport scanning. It's possible, of course, for flyers to opt out, right? And that's what they're being encouraged to do today, although they don't seem to be doing it, I must say. But talk about why the opt-out, what the opt-out means and what it entails.
Our primary message has always been, don't fly, because this security theater degrades us and doesn't make us safe. So our secondary message has been that if you have to fly, opt out of the scanners, opt for the pat-down instead, and make it a creative form of protest to slow down the TSA security theater, but not the passengers. Anecdotally, we have heard that the TSA lets if there are too many opt-outs, it lets them pass through the metal detector instead. And finally, we have heard today that the TSA is dialing back its security theater. It's selecting fewer people for these scanners and pat-downs, and it's not being as invasive in the pat-downs.
There's a couple of polls out, a USA Today Gallup poll and several others, most of which show large majorities of people not objecting to these kinds of more invasive screening. It doesn't seem that there is as much outrage as you might imagine.
I saw a Zogby poll that just came out late last night, says 61% oppose the scanners and the groping, and 48% are looking for alternatives to fly, which is our message. So
Yeah.
the CBS poll came out over a week ago. The landscape here has changed radically in the last week as people have found out what the TSA is doing. As the TSA administrator has admitted now, he hid what his agency was doing. So people didn't really know what was going on when that CBS poll was taken.
Well, when you say what he was doing, what do you mean? What do you claim they're doing?
This new security theater where people are only allowed the choice between the X-ray scanners and the enhanced pat-down.
And the pat down, would that not suffice to discover anything that was people were trying to conceal?
Not necessarily, no. It's not a silver bullet.
Because?
Because people, for example, can hide things inside their body, inside their mouths or other cavities, and the pat-down's just not going to catch that.
So security screening, is it all theater, or aren't there benefits to keep people who could be terrorists from getting on airplanes?
It's all theater, and we are calling for the abolition of the TSA because they are simply incompetent by design. We need to decentralize security in this country for airlines and get some real security instead.
Well, if we didn't have the TSA at airports, how could we be sure? How could public feel safe flying? And, how would we catch terrorists?
Just like when you go into a bank, there's a private security guard, so the airlines can provide their own security.
Well, they did that. They did that before the TSA, and the results were dismal. I mean, most of those people, I shouldn't say that most, but an awful lot of those people were totally incompetent.
That security was privatized security by airports who are owned by local governments. That is not the solution we're seeking. I think that airlines, if they are held accountable for what they do by the public, if the government doesn't get in the way of that, they can come up with a range of solutions, and customers can vote with their dollars and say which one they like best.
All right, we'll see where it goes. George Donnelly, thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure.